Permanent Secretary, what's now called Executive Director of the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and I refer to that as the Simasiko Quartet. Information that I got also from Mr. Peter Nutt. Now, so in a socialistic state, these checks and balances doesn't exist. And that means that power is centralized. And in Namibia, if you take, for example, the case of the cabinet, the president appoints the cabinet. Cabinet members are first accountable to the president, not towards parliament. But ministers also sit in parliament. So they represent the interest of the president in the parliament, but they are accountable first and foremost to the president who appoints them. So it means that the executive override the legislative because they are supposed to make actually laws in parliament and execute them. But now they sit in cabinet and they take decisions of the president, while at the same time they influence the legislative, and obviously their loyalty is with the president and not with the parliament, so they doesn't represent the will of the people. So that's another trend in Namibia, and also a global trend towards increasing government, where the executive powers increase in the world, and in Namibia is increasing at the expense of the legislature. And that also have an impact on the judicial system in Namibia that is becoming increasingly more, what is the right word, compromised. And we see it in Namibia. So monopolies of power in a socialistic system is the name of the game, while in the capitalist system you try to separate them. And it's not the case that you can have absolute distinction between the executive and the legislative. However, in a federal system, it is much more separation between the legislative and executive compared to a unitary system like Namibia and France, where you have a single central government with supreme sovereignty. So, with this contribution, I hope you understand that why socialism contributes towards a bigger government, towards bigger spending, towards free services that is not free because the money must be generated by the private sector, but there's a lid and restrictions being put on the private sector in order to reduce less. And if the private sector cannot provide services due to all these restrictions and bureaucracy and limitations that cost them money, and that add-on cost is being passed on to the consumer to pay the ultimate price for less competition because of the less inflow of ideas and of foreign direct investment, as we have seen in Namibia with NIP and with NIF. That is still on the back burner, and we expect them to realize after the 2024 elections, because it's the Namibian Equity Employment Namibia Economic Employment Equity Bill, and the equity, that part focuses on creating quality of output, and that is a socialistic principle in itself that harmed the Namibian economy already extremely to a very large extent, with an outflow of foreign direct investment since the mentioning of that in 2014-15, on which EPRA, I'm a board member of Economic Policy Research Association. I've written 2 reports about that, and we have published it about the impact of expected impact of NIP, and that was withdrawn, and so many other bills in Namibia with socialistic tendencies, with increasing discretion allowed for the Ministry of Marine Resources on marine quotas in terms of the Marine Resources Act, that have not been amended since Fish Court, the biggest corruption case ever exposed in the history of Namibia by a foreigner, and not even a Namibian, Mr. Johannes Stefansson. And